Are you a financial advisor who's working with a coach, a mentor, some sort of a business consultant that is helping you get from where you are now to where you want to be in your business? Well, I can help you out. I've been mentoring financial advisors for over 20 years. And if you have a relationship with someone that's trying to help you implement the vision of your ideal business that you have in mind, I'm going to share with you something that's really going to help that relationship. Because if I can't fix this issue with the people that I'm coaching and mentoring, we never make forward progress. And so listen carefully. The way coaching works is you've got two positions that have to be very clear. Here's where I am now. Here's where I want to be with my ideal business. So the tip that I'm going to give you and where things kind of go sideways in these relationships, in my experiences, where either one of those are not crystal clear. And I'll give you an example in a minute. So I'll tell you a story, or my story, and how my business consultant sort of shook loose the reality of the things that were obstacles that were preventing my forward progress. So you've got to be very candid about where you are currently in your business, especially as it contrasts with your vision of your ideal business. Now, likewise, you need to be crystal clear in defining what the ideal business is that you're trying to achieve. This could be your goals, your objectives. It could be your totally unique business model that you've got in mind that you want to move from where you are now into some different sort of business model. But either way, whether it's goals and being very specific with those, or objectives that you can explain in clear terms that have measurables so that you can identify how you're moving closer towards or maybe farther away from those objectives. But whatever it is, it could be some completely different business model than you currently have. The question is, can you define it in crystal clear terms? Can you explain your ideal business in a way that helps your mentor, your coach, understand in a very concise, coherent way what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and that all the measurables are well enough understood so that you've got a fixed point in time in the future. And we're not saying that maybe you even know how long it would take to implement this ideal vision, but at the very least, you've got a goal. Let's say 3 years from now. So you would say, on this day and this date, 3 years from now, here's the vision of the business I'd like to have in existence as a reality. And the question is, can you go through the who, what, when, where, why, and how of that ideal business in a way that your coach or your mentor can clearly understand it? Now, therein lies the problem. When I'm sitting down and working with even highly successful financial advisors, the advisors I work with frequently are already at 7 and 8 figure revenue businesses. But nevertheless, when I start to try to understand where they are now and where they want to be, I sometimes struggle getting a clear idea of really where they are currently, as contrasted with the vision that they have in the future. So all I'm saying is, if it's fuzzy, if it's a little foggy, the coaching is not going to be as good. And let me be clear about one thing. It's not the coach's responsibility for you to be successful. That is your responsibility. So I think part of this conversation has to be, have you accepted responsibility for your part of the equation? It's the student's responsibility to learn and then implement. It's not your coach's responsibility. And it's also likewise your responsibility to create a clear vision of where you are now as contrasted with where you want to be, so that it's clear in the mind of your coach and your mentor, your advisor, exactly what's involved with getting from one place to the other. So I'll give you an example. So when I sat down, this goes back many, many years, but this was the breakthrough for me on this issue. When I would sit down with my business coach and try to explain the vision of the business that I was trying to achieve, I was very incoherent. I talked about accomplishing my clients' goals. I talked about, you know, being able to help my clients achieve their dreams and their objectives. And I just wanted to be successful financially by helping my clients get what they want. So I took a few months off. And the purpose of this video is so you don't have to take a few months off. You can listen to this, pause a beat, like let's say maybe sleep on it overnight, take an hour after this video, take a blank sheet of paper and just sketch out some ideas around whatever comes to mind as I'm going through this with you, and then sleep on it. And then tomorrow, get up and start implementing. So the goal is, rather than like me, you take a lot of time off to get clear on all of this. How about this? Let me put the framework in front of you, and then you just kind of ponder it a little bit and sleep on it, and then get up ready to take action tomorrow. So the difference between success and, let's call it, less than success is action. So it's not that you can't grasp what I'm about to walk through with you. Almost every financial advisor can grasp the theory of what I'm about to talk about. The percentage that actually take action, well, that's what separates the successful from the rest. All right. So what are you supposed to take action and do right after this video? I want you to sit down and map out the vision of the future. I want you to describe specifically what you envision as your ideal business. So, and you may not have all the details. I'll give you the example of what I came up with. And this is after a month of thinking. I sat down with my business coach after I'd really taken a deep breath and thought about this for a while. I sat down with my business coach and said, here's what I've got. All right. I'll tell you where I am now in a minute. Let me paint the picture of where I want to be. I've been in this business. This is going back many, many years. But at the time, I've been in the business 12 years. I've been in the business a dozen years. And I have had my heart in the right place in knowing that I want to be successful by being useful and helpful and valuable to my clients. After thinking about it, here's what I know and here's what I don't know around the parameters of where I want to be in the future with my business. So my vision is that 3 years from today, notice that's a day, a month, and a year. Okay. So, but you got to fill in the date. So 3 years from today, I want to have a business that serves individuals and families, coordinating all of their financial affairs in a way that is radically different and better than every other financial advisor that my clients might hire. So I'm kind of used to the drill. A potential client comes in and says, I'm interviewing several advisors that have been recommended to me, and you're one of them. So what you got, And so that's just kind of the marketplace. And then when we get to the end of that meeting, very frequently the potential client would say, great, it sounds great, Mark, we will get back with you. And when I follow up, I learned to find out that even though I'm describing things that we do that I was convinced are radically different and better than our competition, I find out the brutal truth. Not so much. In the mind of what matters most to the client, I'm kind of like the rest of them, or at the very, very least, I may be in the top pack, but I'm still in a pack. That there is nothing what I would call radically different and better. I might be a little bit different around the edges, and come to find out maybe I'm radically different in some areas that matter very little to the client. But I want 3 years from today to be able to explain what I do in a way that is not just a little bit better, not just substantially better than my competitors, but radically different and better. So much so that I'm the only game in town. So I told my business coach, 3 years from today, I want to, in essence, be helping my clients coordinate all their financial affairs and get their financial house in order and start moving it in that direction. But I want to do it in a way that is radically different and better in the minds of the client. Okay. So where are you now? Well, apparently, I'm doing financial planning, investment management. I'm helping clients coordinate their financial affairs. No question. I manage money. I sit down and map out scenarios to my clients' goals. We do that in a very academically proper way. So I feel like we're definitely in the top tier, but apparently not much different and better than others. But the point is, I'm not sure. All I know is I've been listing the services that we do that I am convinced we do at an above average technical competence level. I thought substantially higher level, but in the minds of the client, not so much, because when I'm interviewed by potential clients, yeah, they may hire me more than 50% of the time, but let's call it 30, 40% of the time, 3 or 4 times, out of 10 times that I have these kind of scenarios, they go somewhere else. So obviously, either what we're doing is not much different and better than other financial advisors, or the things that we do that are radically different and better just don't move the needle for the client. It's not motivating the client. It's not stuff that matters to the client. So that's what I said. So I am currently good. We are generating leads. I'm generating new revenue, but I am definitely getting a lot of non-ideal clients that I'm acquiring as clients because I'm more impressive to the non-ideal clients. But if you get the more affluent, the more successful clients who have the more complex situations and a little more sophisticated in looking at financial advisors, they kind of know what they're looking for, and they know when they're not impressed, and they're a little more dialed into what that looks like. Not so much. So 3 years from now, I want to be basically doing what I'm doing now, but I want to redesign it so that we are radically different and better in the minds of the client. And we are the only game in town. That I don't know what the business model is going to look like yet, but I can tell you this. I am going to design a radically different and better financial services offering that when you go through it with a client and you find a client that is actually looking for those precise things, that I can look them in the eye and honestly say, well, look, you can go interview other advisors. I encourage you to do that. Feel free. I think it's a good idea. But all I can say is, in chatting with you, if what we do is what you're looking for, if at the end of the day, what I've just outlined for you that the services we provide, if that's what you're looking for, you're not going to find any other firm that's able and willing to deliver at that level. So whatever my business model is, I want to be the only game in town. All right, so enough of that. Can you describe your vision of your ideal business in specific enough terms, clearly identifying the vision, or clear enough? So you notice how there was a lot of fuzziness in the vision. But let me ask you this. After I shared with you where I am now, which is nowhere near that, but you got a general idea of my technical competence. So let's just say, for the purposes of this video, you accept the fact that at the time I was technically competent in several areas: investments, financial planning, coordinating financial affairs, let's say. So what's the gap? Well, you can't say that I really crystal clear defined the vision, other than it's more and better than what it is now. So I guess my question is, because I put a date on it, do you think it's possible to take the way that I explain this to my business coach? And do you think if you were my business coach, given that scenario, you could help me create a plan on a timeline with metrics to move towards that goal? And that's exactly what happened. 34 months later, not only had we defined this, but I was closed my doors to new business. From that moment where I clearly defined this unclear vision of the business model, but I set the parameters in a clear way enough to where I knew what to eject. Like, I knew what couldn't be in the new model. The new model could not be just a little bit better than the competition in some certain areas. No, I had to find something or some things that would radically differentiate me. And just the statement and telling my business coach, I don't know what it is, but I want to be the only game in town. Well, that created an entire plan and a process over a timeline that was very strict, where I would take a list of potential services, potential promises that I could make to clients. I could check it back with our focus group of affluent clients, which we had created. I could talk to my business coach about this. And sure enough, in the process of clarifying and identifying and ultimately achieving this goal of having a radically different business model that made me the only game in town for clients that are looking for this specific set of services, which we now call truly comprehensive financial services, because I trademarked that term around this. But the bottom line was, it created all the crucial elements that my coaches and advisors and mentors needed to help me accelerate my path towards that objective. And so every time I met with my coaches, every time we met, I was always asked, are you on track or off track to that vision? And that meant I had to create for them. Again, it's the student's responsibility. Okay. But with the coach's help, I was able to very quickly begin to clarify specific measures and things that needed to be in place so that I could create a list of possible features and services and outcomes against which I could, along the way, check with affluent clients in our focus group and do deep research and eliminate many of them. Or in the case of some services, that we took the same service, but we keyed in on some element of that service that the clients really cared about, that I was totally unaware of. And that became the linchpin. So those areas that matter most to the clients is really all I focused on. And then I backed in, because I had above average technical competence, I backed in and created a professional process that would get all the elements moving in the right direction. But what we were promising and what we were actually delivering were things that made us radically different and better, because there was no other firm out there promising these things. Not only did they not deliver on what we were promising, they didn't even want to deliver on what we were promising, because we identified 4 client expectations that if you can deliver on the 4 expectations that we identified that we have in our coaching program, you'll be radically different and better, because most financial advisors don't even want to deliver on these things. So leave you with this. I want you to take, after this video, I want you to take a breath. I want you to spend an hour with a blank sheet of paper, and I want you to just clear your mind and say, what does my ideal business look like? Forget when, forget how you're going to get there. Just start mapping it out and do it in very vivid detail. Like with a blank sheet of paper, just say, when this ideal business is up and running, here's where the office is going to be. Maybe it's the same office you've got right now. Maybe you're moving into some kind of differently designed space. Here is what we will be doing for our clients. And this is key. Here are the outcomes that I'm going to promise my clients. So it's one thing to list a set of services, such as I was doing before. We provide investment management, financial planning, financial coordination services. That's a list of services, which is how I used to define myself. No, when you go through this exercise and you sit down with the blank sheet of paper, I want you to list the outcomes that you think, based on your current skill and experience, that are the outcomes that matter most to the clients. So here's what I feel like I can promise to my clients and deliver on. Or maybe you don't know how to deliver on it right now, but that's the goal. You want to be able to deliver on it. And so these are the assurances that you're going to make to your clients around the issues that matter most to them. So list the things you think matter to clients most. What is it in your experience in doing whatever you're doing as far as working with individuals and families? What are the financial issues and outcomes that you think matter most to them? And how can you design and define and describe your services around those things so that you can be radically different and better, or at least different and better enough that in the mind of a client, when you describe what you do and you start delivering what you do, it's obvious very quickly to potential clients and then, of course, actual clients that what you're delivering is at a level far above for what you do and what you're promising. You are really, truly extraordinary at those things. And so sit down with a blank sheet of paper, write it all out, sleep on it, and then don't stay in information mode more than a day. Like, get out of information mode. We call information mode getting ready to get ready. So get out of that mode as quickly as you can. Spend today, fill the blank sheet of paper with your ideas, where you're heading. Be very candid about where you are right now, especially as contrasted with your vision of your ideal business. Like, here's what's not in place as it relates to that vision. But once you've got that documented on a blank sheet of paper, that's the information. That's the end of your information mode. You need to get into action mode. You need to stop getting ready to take action and just decide to take action. And my recommendation is that starts tomorrow. So that's my advice. If any of this that I'm saying applies to you, if you are having a difficult time explaining your vision, you know that you're in action mode, as long as you could clearly describe what it is that in your head you're trying to envision for the business that represents, the ideal structure that's going to ultimately drive your ideal life. I mean, your ideal business is going to be the financial engine at the very least for funding your ideal life. So can you describe that ideal vision and where you are now? And if you're stuck and you're close and you're convinced that if you could just get that clarity, then you could start going into action mode. Well, if you'd like to talk to us, give us a call. I'm happy to talk to you. Go to your coach. If you're working with a coach or a mentor, do that. Sit down with them and lay all this out for them immediately. Like, see if you can get them on the phone tomorrow and go through all this with them and say, I've got it. I can finally define very clear terms where I am now, where I want to be, and the timeline. So make sure that your vision has a date that you're not sure, but this is the goal. This is the date that I'd like to have all of this in place. And then just allow your business coach or your mentor to help you create a plan to get there on a timeline where you're strictly accountable to yourself. Because keep in mind, this is your vision, not your coach's, not anyone else. It's your responsibility. So you need a plan to get you there, and you need a structure to hold you accountable. And you can hire an accountability coach. Ann Backrack is probably the best accountability coach. If she's accepting clients, call her. But if you have a hard time just describing this ideal business, you can go to our site. It's themarkofmastery.com/talk. And just set up a time to go through that with me, and we'll dial it in. As long as you're in action mode. I don't like to talk to people that are just sort of kicking the tires and thinking, I'm not sure if I'm really willing to make the effort. No, I only want to talk to people if you are at the point where you're thinking, if I could just articulate my vision, that vision would light a fire under me and I'd be immediately in action mode. So if that's kind of more the situation that you're thinking about, let's talk. Otherwise, you've got people in your life. Even if you don't have a business coach or a mentor, I recommend that you find someone. Find an older, more successful person. I actually went to an affluent client of mine when I was in my 20s, laid all this sort of stuff out for him. He was very kind and very candid, and he was very helpful. So find a mentor, hire a coach, but make progress. Make a commitment to get out of information mode into action mode. And the best way to do that is for you to be able to articulate where you are and where you're going. All right. I hope that helps. See you in the next video.